Hey, everybody, it's AB Stoddard with the Bulwark. There is so little darkness today for the dark side that we actually let JVL take a well-deserved vacation. Please don't bother him. He's off finding the light at the beach, and I'm really delighted to be with our managing editor today in his stead. Sam Stein is joining us. Sam, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. I can try to bring the darkness if you need me to.
No, actually, JV and I overdose and overload on darkness so much for the audience most of the time that we actually have to have these light and airy discussions on our record. I have been really struck by the fact that Trump is sort of in trying to, I think, like intentionally blow himself up. And it must be sort of a combination of his pathological disorders and his need to control the news cycle. What are your thoughts on, they were different, but sort of going from the National Association of Black Journalists conference where he made himself a good 36-hour, headline,
right,
and captured all the attention, to just waking up on Saturday and deciding to be obsessive about Georgia's governor when he was going down there to campaign there. What do you think? He's going through some things. What's your diagnosis?
Hold on. You think this is you do think this is intentional self-sabotage, or you just think he just can't help himself? Like, what's your psychological diagnosis?
So I think it's a mix. I think sometimes he wants to be in the news, but I also believe that when he doesn't know how to be on offense with his opponent, who's a Democrat, he just turns around and attacks Republicans. Because he likes to be fighting. It's what it drives his demons away. Newt Gingrich once said, Trump wakes up every single day and tries to find a way to be on offense. Fighting is what he does. He doesn't do revolution. So I feel like, right, it's sort of what he, and I think he feels a bit cornered. So it's kind of what he does. And then you get headlines, and then he doesn't care if Republicans are mad at him.
It's funny because I did a podcast with Newt. I think it's got to be around 2016 or something like that. And we were talking about Trump, who had just burst onto the scene and was like insane, obviously, for everyone watching him. And Newt compared him to the bear in The Reverend, that movie that just, just like ferocious animal who like can't help himself. It was a graphic analogy, but I think there's something to it, like, which is that Trump is just, he can't be passive. He can't be a secondary figure. He has to be the center of attention. And that can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. But I do think in the two instances that you talked about, so the NIBJ conference, I mean, I don't think this is a radical observation, but he has a history of being confrontational and with Black female journalists. Like, that's just, he has that history. And then with the Georgia rally, like, he just can't help himself with Brian Kemp. I thought the most illustrating quote that he had from that rally was when he said something like, I'm going to butcher it, but he's like, I have a weakness. He's like, I like people who like me. And so he's like, if you don't like him, I only like people who like me. It's like, so if you're remotely critical of him, or if you haven't helped him, he's not going to like you. And I think in this case, Kemp has, and certainly his wife, which I thought was the most remarkable thing, is Trump deciding to like unload on Kemp's wife. The fact that they haven't, been completely flattering of Trump means that he has in his mind the green light to just go crazy on them and be the bear and the reverend. And it clearly was on Saturday.
It is really staggering to me that Brian Kemp remains the highest profile elected who has crossed wires with Trump. He says he's going to vote for him, but everyone else has retired or been run out of town, right? So it really is interesting. Mitt Romney is still in office, but he's on the way out the door, So this is really stunning.
Kemp's not like Kemp's not some wallflower either. I mean, Kemp has got an incredible popularity rating in Georgia. He's probably one of a handful of like really successful Republican governors around the country. Georgia's going to be it's a key state yet again this cycle. The idea that you would both antagonize this person is wild. The idea that Kemp would still vote for Trump, honestly, to me is a little wild. That Trump has been pretty vicious towards him, and then to go after his wife in that fashion, I thought was beyond the pale. And yet that's what you have. That's the price you have to pay, it appears to be, in the modern Republican Party.
Yes, you get to defend that, which is so much fun. But really, kudos to Kemp for being the island, right? He's sort of the only autonomous Republican who is in a position, the position that second-term governor, popular, has a future, probably, if he wants, maybe, in a couple cycles. But it's a very interesting storyline. So Trump wants to quash him. What is happening in the background of this is that Trump is getting nervous about the polls. So he loved the polling for the last year because he's been ahead the entire time. And now they're all moving in one direction. The swing state polls, slowly, incrementally, Trump's still ahead in some of them, but you can see the direction that they're going in. And then the national polls are moving right ahead for Harris. Now, I don't listen to national polls. I'm sure you don't either. But it is interesting. Nate Silver, he sent this tweet this weekend saying the streams had crossed. You saw Trump's red line going this way, her blue line going up. And on the 30th, which was last Tuesday, so only 6 days ago, his model had 61 to 38 Trump chance of winning. She is now 53 over 46 on August 5. Wow. Which is dramatic swing. So he has her at 282 electoral votes, Trump at 255. So it was so long in Trump's favor. And because of the Electoral College, we thought, Harris will just have to hope to get there by the end of September, early October, actually in contention, right? Because Democrats have to be roughly 4 to 5 points ahead with a lead in polling in order to overcome the Electoral College disadvantage that favors Republicans in the presidential election. So she's on her way. And it's just, it must be driving Trump crazy. This happens in 2 weeks.
Right. And his team put out a memo this weekend calling into question the methodology of one of these polls. And, it's like when you're doing that, when you're unskewing, which is what the Biden people were doing for a while over the summer, you just know things are not going particularly well. I'm with you to a degree. I'm like kind of surprised. I'm just gathering from your tone and your question. I'm kind of surprised that it happened this quickly. I assumed that it would be a little while before she crawled her way back into this. It was a sizable deficit that Biden had. And I just took it for granted that it would take a VP pick and then a convention bounce, and then suddenly we'd be there and maybe the debate would propel her forward. But she's now charitably even the race, and to give her a little bit of favor, she's kind of eked ahead in these models. Who knows, right? Like this could be, I think Axelrod was on the podcast being like, this is a sugar high more or less. And maybe she comes back down to earth. But it's like she's got tons of money to do all this advertising that she now wants to do. She still has the convention, which in theory should give her a whole new audience and another bounce. I think she should debate Trump. I mean, obviously she's going to have to find a way to do it that's not on his terms completely, but I think that would also benefit her because she's a very good debater and he's not. Even that debate against Biden, it was Biden kind of face planting out, Trump succeeding. So there's a couple still small catapults out there for her to take advantage of on top of the momentum she's already built.
Momentum. Okay, you're right. It's not the 11th hour. It's not late, but it's still late enough that momentum, this pace of momentum is definitely a threat to Trump, right? Once it's moving out, I mean, it really can help.
And he knows that too, right? Because he had, that's how he won in 2016. It wasn't, he was trailing the entire time. And then suddenly, with 3 weeks to go, everything broke his way. And then the Comey letter comes out and it breaks his way even further. And it was like watching someone just take over down the stretch and eke it out by a hair, right? And so he knows this.
Yeah, that's what I think is getting under his skin. Let's talk. So let's obviously also mention that we are talking before we've heard about the Veep pick, and that we expect that to happen soon, Monday night, maybe if it leaks, probably first thing Tuesday morning with a video. They appear together for the first time on Tuesday night, August 6th, tomorrow night. And I am stunned that the ticket will be in Pennsylvania Tuesday night, Sam, Michigan Wednesday, Wisconsin Wednesday, North Carolina Thursday, Arizona Friday, Nevada Saturday. And Trump is going to one place this week. On Friday, he's going to Montana, a blood red state.
Right.
So, I wonder what he's doing in the face of the momentum shift besides melting down psychologically.
Well, he's It's true. It's a little bit odd from a campaign perspective. He's dispatching JD Vance to birdsong her on all these stops. I don't know. That seems kind of lame to me, honestly. But at the same time, I suppose you don't want to seem too reactive, right? Like you want to be on your own schedule. He's doing these unconventional things, which I'm curious if they end up working. Like for instance, today he was on with this live streamer, Aiden Ross, who's got about like 1 million plus followers. They just did like an hour and a half live video from Mar-a-Lago where Trump was gifted a Rolex watch and a Cybertruck, and Elon Musk Cybertruck from Tesla. And like they talked about everything, including like Michael Jackson and Frank Sinatra and things like that. But this is an interesting thing that Trump's doing, which is he's trying to branch out into these non-traditional political worlds, and he's making an overt appeal for young men as an electoral coalition, and that's why he does these shows. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that works, but you're right. I think to a degree, it's like kind of dispatching with the conventional campaign structures, which is like he should be out there. He should be talking to voters. He should be in the key states. He's not doing that. He's in Mar-a-Lago today. He's in Montana on Saturday. It's like not a very robust schedule for someone who is running for president and is losing momentum.
Yeah, it's surprising. It wouldn't be responding to the poll shift. It would be campaigning closer to the general election.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I know he didn't have to go to diners in 2016, and maybe he thinks that maybe you're right. The micro-targeting on social media through these shows, maybe it helps juice things here and there. But sending JD Vance around, right? It's a cult. JD, they don't want JD Vance, right? JD Vance doing something where he follows her around. It's
like watching. It's like going to a concert and getting the cover band. You want the real thing.
It's a little strange. Let's talk about her challenges ahead because, it's big honeymoon. And as you point out, she has a lot of moments coming, which really will probably only help her. But today, the markets are panicking, and the Trump team has labeled branded it the Kamala crash.
Right.
And they are they're saying Trump cash versus Kamala crash. And I like that Trump on that show this morning has a new version of her. He calls her Kamala.
Yeah.
Instead of Kamala, he has a new way to mispronounce it. Anyway, so everyone is on the right is pushing for her to come out and embrace Bidenomics and try to defend, their economic policies and levels of inflation, everything like that. She has obviously avoided any kind of media back and forth. When the prisoners were released on last week, she made a few remarks very quickly and then walked away from the mic. She hasn't done any exchanges. So people are going to be making noise about this, constantly. And I want to get the debate thing in a minute, but what is your thinking on she's co-presidenting. She's going to be in the Situation Room for a meeting about Israel and Iran. So she's trying to show that she's co-presidenting, but at the same time, she's going to try to avoid the hard questions. How long can that last?
Yeah, and it's funny. I have to write for JVL. I have to write the newsletter tomorrow, and this is going to be my topic, which is I think she's got to. I mean, obviously, right now she's going through the Veep vetting, and she's going to make the announcement. She's going to do all these tours, and then But I think at some point she's obviously going to have to talk to the press. She's going to have to answer questions. She's going to have to take a little bit more substantive positions. And I think there's obviously peril in this because the times are perilous. It's not just the economy. You have potential for regional conflict in the Middle East. That could be obviously very destabilizing. But also there's opportunity, right? Like she can use this to really define herself on her terms and also make strategic breaks from Biden. And I think my take on it, at least right now, is that she should be aggressive about this and not passive. And by that, I mean, I think she should actually go on a fairly robust media circuit. I don't think she should confine herself to friendly audiences. I think she should actually go to not the lion's den, but she should find some conservative outlets and go there. The reason I think this is because they're going to characterize her and caricature her one way regardless, right? Like they're already calling her everything from not black to stupid to lazy. They're saying she owns this market crash today. We don't even know if it's a robust market crash or if it's a one-day thing. Anyways, they're going to run all this stuff about her. And the risk, obviously, in my mind, is that if she doesn't respond in mediums where their viewers are, then that risks taking hold, right? And, we see this time and again, this kind of debate that Democrats have about, well, should you legitimize these outlets or not? And I think, like, that's a silly debate. Like, they exist, they're talking to people, you need to go where the audience is. And sometimes that brings you into uncomfortable places. That's part of the job. Do it. And then secondarily, and she's doing this already, but finding certain ways to kind of create some policy differentiations, not necessarily with Biden, but maybe with your own party. And so you've seen her kind of come out and say, actually, I don't no longer believe that should be a ban on fracking, right? Like, that was one of those things where she was going to have to do it. They made the smart decision to just do it and get it done quickly, right?
Through a staff statement.
Yeah, they're just like, we're going to get it done quickly, whatever. But, like, I think she needs to, I think there's going to be, in the moments ahead, in the months ahead, places where she's going to have to sort of differentiate herself from Biden, and she should think about that and do it aggressively, because she needs to define herself on her own terms. And that means not being passive about the type of public outreach that you're doing.
And, when you think about it, it's only been 2 weeks. Of course, she's got to take the time.
Yeah.
She's racing around doing campaign meetings and campaign events and finding a vice presidential running mate.
Right.
She really does need to sit down with people and think strategically about on what she will make those breaks and how they will handle it, because that is a big thing, right? She's not going to just.
I don't fault her let me be clear. I don't fault her for not doing press over the last 2 weeks. Like, but these are monumental things that have happened, and she had to stand up an entire campaign apparatus. Well, not an entire one, but she had to bring her own campaign apparatus to being. She was raising tons of money. She was making hundreds of calls to Democrats across the country. She's got to prep for her VP, which means she's got to actually go through the vetting materials, talk to people. Like, this is not like someone who's just sort of sitting around and hanging out at her house. And on top of that, she's got the job that she currently has. But I do think, obviously, at some point in time, that's not a sustainable posture, right? Like, you are a candidate for president. You're going to be demanded to have some sort of interaction with the public through either interviews or town halls or something. And you got to figure out a way to do it that's not just sort of defensive, right? You need to sort of go at the people who are critical or skeptical of you and win them over. That's politics. It's like the art of persuasion. And so my case for her is, don't play prevent defense on this stuff. To borrow a sports metaphor, is like, go for it, go for the jugular. You have the momentum, keep it up. Just, run up the score if you can.
As you know, there's an argument when she's doing great to not mess it up.
And of course.
There's plenty of time for it later. I'm interested in your thoughts on the debate. I feel strongly that she should not debate on Fox News, that she didn't put this in her statement, but she should say Fox News had to pay almost $1 billion in defamation because they lied about the 2020 election several times, different people. And I'm not going to debate in a room full of audience members that they pick screaming while Donald Trump talks. I'm not going to do that. I would, if I were her, have an interview with Bret Baier. I would say, in exchange, I'm going to come on Fox News and have an interview with their best anchor in a conversation without Trump in the background, whatever, sneering and people in the audience, and then do the debate. Try to do the debate elsewhere. What are your thoughts on that? I just feel like actually going to Fox, I feel, is a mistake for a debate.
I can understand why that. I'm not saying that that's a wrong opinion. I think anytime a network pays $790 million defamation suit about election lies, like, you do have to question their editorial bearings. And obviously, Trump chose
and how they've
bent
over backwards for Trump.
Yeah, exactly. And it's clear that they're doing that. They're going to do that going forward, right? Like, I mean, this is not like a unbiased network. And I do think Trump, in addition to like Fox News, he wants a live audience. Like, he clearly has an idea of what would benefit him. And I don't think you should just say, yeah, I'll do it. But I do think there's some virtue to saying, okay, sure, let's not have a live audience. Let's maybe bring in another anchor who I think would be more fair, in addition to the ones you choose. But you know what? I'm not going to back down for you. In fact, I'm going to take it right to your throat. And I think the sort of template for this is, Gavin Newsom and DeSantis did that whole thing on Fox News with Sean Hannity, and it was terribly one-sided questioning. It was ridiculous. It was almost laughable. But like Newsom sort of held his own, and it was kind of illuminating to see it happen. I wouldn't do that. But what I would do if I were her is I would make it clear that you're not scared of Trump. And I would make it clear that you are willing to go to uncomfortable places to reach different electorates and to, more or less call him out into his face in front of the people who worship him. And I think that, there is some sort of upside to that. Like, the person who's really good at it, and obviously he's like, the best at it probably is Pete Buttigieg. He goes on Fox all the time, and he does it in the interview format that you're talking about. So, perhaps that's the reasonable solution here. But like, I think there is too often Democrats get into a cocoon where they think, well, we cannot talk to these people because they lie about us. We're legitimizing them. They will never be won over. They will never be fair to us. And my answer to that is, well, you know what? It's not fair. But your job is to sort of win over those people, or at least a margin of those people, so that you can then, have a little buffer in case the election doesn't particularly go in the ways that you want it for the last month of it. I think there's some value to it.
I did Fox for 15 years. I didn't.
You were great at it, by the way. I loved it when you were on there.
January 6th was it for me. But I think, and I've seen Brett, and I really give him credit for this. I've seen him in an interview in the last year tell Trump to his face. Yeah. 60 court cases, audits, recounts. You lost the 2020 election. Maybe if she did, he should tell the audience that at the start of the debate. Like, we're not even going to talk to Mr. Trump about this. We're going to tell you at the start of the debate, the vice president, brings this up, and we acknowledge, that the 2020 election was not stolen and Donald Trump lost it fair and square, and Joe Biden's the lawful president.
Exactly. But that's my point, is like, that's the opportunity you have, right? Like all the people, all the Fox, first of all, it wouldn't just be Fox viewers, right? It would be a huge millions and millions of people. But like a lot of the Fox viewers, and maybe this is the case for going on just doing an interview with Brett, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those people, have not heard that. They just haven't heard it. And for you to tell them to their face, before we start this interview, I just want to be clear about something. Donald Trump lost the election. He filed all these lawsuits to try to overturn it. He lost all those lawsuits. On top of that, and then you just go through the litany. He's like, okay, now I'm ready to begin the interview. And that would be an incredibly poignant and powerful moment that it maybe not like would win people over left and right, but I think it would endear her to some people in the middle for sure. And I think it would have the virality that you try to get from these types of interviews, right? It transcends the actual interview.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam, we will look forward to your advice for
she won't take it, but sure.
Harris tomorrow, and we're all pumped to see who she picks for to be her running mate. We will see you here on the Bulwark's YouTube channel over and over and over again. Keep checking back for breaking news, and we'll see you guys next time on The Dark Side.